H.P. Blavatsky's Awakening by Katherine Tingley, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. This piece is an extract from The Wine of Life. The Wine of Life is a compilation of public addresses delivered by Katherine Tingley in the USA and Europe, mainly in 1923 and 1924, and it was published in 1925. H.P. Blavatsky's Awakening. I suppose that nearly everyone knows now something about the glorious work of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. She was a Russian noblewoman of royal descent. At an early age in her young girlhood, she discovered that something was awry with the world. She had everything in Russia to convince her that things were going wrong, even at that tender age. And in her dissatisfaction and her lack of knowledge, her life underwent a change. She exhibited a wonderfully inquiring mind, though as a girl she was not especially precocious. Even in the small acts of her childhood, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky manifested an unusual spirit of justice, love of right action, and sympathy for the suffering of others. While on her father's estate, when hardly more than 14 or 15 years of age, she heard groans and agonizing cries on the public road nearby, and looking over the hedge she saw a number of prisoners in chains on their way to Siberia under cruel guards. She became frantic with indignation. The story is that for years afterwards she was never seen smiling, though before that she had been a happy, carefree girl. She became unusually studious and thoughtful, and staggered her relatives with the questions that she asked as to the why and wherefore of so much suffering and cruelty in the world. She could not understand why Russia, with its great territory and many advantages, should allow such things to go on. Later, she travelled with her father, and she found cruelty and misery everywhere. I do not think there was any country that she could have gone to where she would have been treated as shamefully as she was treated here in America. Before she chose America to start her work, she had the most peculiar idea of this country. She judged it by its constitution, which secures religious freedom to all. She imagined that Americans must be angels. She thought this was the country of countries, where there was liberty of speech. She really thought that she would meet with wonderful support for the glorious teachings of the wisdom religion that she brought, which she said were not hers. She came to America to help humanity with the eagerness of a child. But as soon as she put her foot upon our soil, even before she reached her hotel, the newspapers all over the country began their campaign of persecution. The intolerance of the age in free America persecuted her. But she remained firm. She held on. She gathered together some of the finest minds, first in America and throughout the world, and in spite of the persecution that she suffered, her society has thousands of followers all over the world. Perhaps we think that in America we are not so cruel as in Russia, and yet if one were to investigate the condition of the unfortunates in some of our jails and penitentiaries, one would find that the inmates are often treated as though they were not human. This I cannot understand any more than H.P. Blavatsky could understand what she saw, in view of the fact that for the past 19 centuries Western civilization had professedly accepted the gospel of the Nazarene, love ye one another, and yet year by year and century after century, so-called civilization has been acting on the principle of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, which Jesus repudiated. It may be argued that the treatment of prisoners is much more humane than it used to be, but I say frankly, and I want the whole world to know it, that most prisons today are hell houses and unfit for even the worst specimens of mankind to be in. I am not blaming those who are in charge of them, who are often simply trying to perform their duties as best they can. But it is a terrible reflection upon the so-called Christian world and upon our present civilization that these things are as they are.